Hey, how's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? All right. Before I get started, can we give a round of applause to Christopher Franklin for this great event? How about this great facility? Let's keep it going. How about the person that we're here for? Because we came here to make Jesus famous, right? All right, so we're going to talk about podcasting in a very, very different way. Title, Podcasting Beyond the Church. Now, one might ask, how did I get started in podcasting? Well, I will tell you, it wasn't planned. God kind of deals with me in a way that he deals with Abram, before he was Abraham, Get all your stuff and go that way. Get all your childrens and your donkeys and your llamas or whatever you have and go that way. So God said to me, I want you to start a podcast. Now, mind you, I'm in the audio space. I started out as a music producer. I produced Casey and JoJo and Ani Kamosi and Canton Jones, and I can go on and on. On top of my musical gift, because I started playing in church when I was a little kid, I learned how to be an engineer. I've mixed a lot of records. Then I became a trainer at B&H Photo Video, so I'm pretty sure all of my churches have bought equipment from there. I'm the guy that trained the entire audio department. Chat, email, retail, phone sales. I created their curriculum. So those marvelous people that you talk to or email, some remnants from me is there. Then I got into podcast studio. So I started a podcast studio before I was even a podcaster. And how that happened was, God just told me, because he kind of deals with me that way, you should think about opening a podcast studio. I was like, why? Why would you want me? I know nothing about this. So I called a friend of mine who is a real close friend who had a podcast. And I said, I'm thinking about starting a podcast studio. And he said, it's funny that me and my producer are looking for a location now. Would you want to be the third member of this group? Now, that idea didn't come from me. He brought it to me, and so then we launched the Metro Podcast Studio. Right now, we're looking for a larger location in New York. Now, obviously, you can tell from my R's, I'm a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker. So then, God was like, okay, now I want you to start a podcast. So this is, all right, so no one laugh, because I told the graphic designer, I'm praying for more hair. And I'm going to hold him to it. It's going to happen. It's going to come true. So at the end of 2019, I started recording the podcast. So I'm a planner. So I'm like, okay, I want to record 20 to 25 shows so I can have time to market and promote. Well, we all know what happened in 2020, right? Is everybody familiar with what happened in 2020? I caught it. And at the same time, I found out something else. I had prostate cancer, and I had to have prostate surgery. Praise God, I am cancer-free. I'm here standing with you today. And while I was recovering, my podcast launched. And it took off. Because I talk about kingdom culture, real life, and technology in the way that I'm talking to you now. I don't talk in ones and zeros. I talk about application. I talk about team building. I talk about all the things that happens within a multimedia ministry. So now you know a little something about me. Can we take a trip and go back in time for a second? Can we do that? AM radio. So I know a couple of the kids out there probably like, what is AM radio? Well, it launched in 1922. Well, 1921, but in 1921, there were 500 stations. And it was only in 2 million homes. And at that time, programming was very similar to what you find on television today, right? You had dramas, you had sports, you had all of these things that people would crowd around the radio to listen to the times of the day, the things of the day, game shows, all of these things were happening. The church would use the medium to reach the people, and that medium was church sermons. They would broadcast full church services because technology stands on top of technology, and outreach is dependent upon the technology of the day. Technology of the day, AM radio. So let's fast forward to 1978. Wow, FM radio started in 1941, but by 1978, well, look, 10,000 radio stations, almost double the population. Now it's portable. You have AM, you have FM, you have car radios, you have transistor radios, you have the Walkman, you have all of these things happening. And can anyone guess what the church used for their broadcast medium? You guys are smart. I can read your mind. Church sermons. So let's go to today. Not only do we have 15,000 terrestrial radio stations, but it's more than 100 more million people. And it's consumed everywhere. Not only do we have 15,000 terrestrial radio stations, we also have satellite radio. We have internet radio. We have all of these different mediums. So out loud, I want to read your mind again. Can you tell me what is the one way the church uses this medium? You know, you guys are just brilliant. You guys are amazing. Church sermons. So let's go to podcasting. 4 million shows and counting. 82% of the United States listen to podcasts. 424 million listeners. 424 million listeners. Look at the numbers. Do I have to say it? Church sermons. Well, Mark says, go into the world, preach the gospel to all creation, right? But there has to be more. So, if your church has a podcast, raise your hand. Okay, all right. So it's one person here, but I'm going to give you some nuggets. Maybe you didn't want to put your hand up. I saw you. I saw your hand. I see your hand. I see your hand. To take your sermon to a deeper level, now, what I'm going to tell you is going to require some work. It's going to require some planning. It's going to require some ingenuity. It's going to require some people. It's going to require, what my mama would say, some elbow grease, okay? What if the sermon that you guys put up on Sunday, you did a Q&A. You brought someone in, centered on the topic. Say fatherhood. And you brought a single dad in, or you brought a divorced father, you brought a separated father, you brought someone who just got out of jail. They all can talk about fatherhood from a different perspective. At the same time, you're taking the word deeper. Now, what if you had a youth or kids version? Well, the adults are getting it, but now your youth are getting it because they're already on their devices. I'm pretty sure you guys haven't figured that out yet. They're all on their devices anyway. What if you have a kids version? What if your church did a daily devotional or weekly devotional taking the parishioners through the year? Do you think that would be impactful? Than just having your Facebook Live service or your YouTube Live service, and then taking the audio from that and repurposing it as an audio to an audio format with the audio podcast. You can get more out of that one service, but like I said, it's going to require some time and some energy. So, this is my phone. These are the things I listen to on a weekly and daily basis. I love sports. I like to learn about podcasting, love business. I'm a director, so I like film. I love me, all right? I like to learn about income. I like to learn about finance. I'm pretty sure your phone does not look like my phone. Are the lights turning on? Lights turning on? Okay. These are the categories from Apple Podcasts. Look at all the categories. Look at all the categories. You see, I didn't circle religion, spirituality because that's already covered, right? Because we already got sermons up the wazoo everywhere. So what if we can do is to put faith in culture? So let me give you an example. Let me give you a prime example. You're a pastor. You have a youth minister. This guy's amazing. I mean, he's well-learned. He lives the word, walks the word. Kids love him. Adults love him. Young adults follow him. He's charismatic. He's amazing. At your church, he's the rock star. On top of that, he's the real deal. He can't walk 2 steps without someone stopping him. Someone's always, he's a draw. But at the same time, this guy is a gamer. He can talk about gaming forever. He can tell you what year a game came out. He can tell you when it came out. He can tell you who was the player. He can tell you all the different types of controllers. He can tell you where to get all kinds of codes. This guy's a gamer. But at the same time, he says, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast about gaming. And he starts a podcast about gaming. And people start following him because he's a gamer. And people that are following him are not Christian gamers, they're just gamers. So now all of a sudden, what happens? He starts to get a following. Hundreds of thousands of people are watching him talk about games, play games, do games, all of these things. They're asking him questions about games. He's interacting, and someone just happens to Google him and find out that he's a pastor. And they start listening to his messages. And all of a sudden, gamers start showing up to your church. And all of a sudden, the numbers on your live stream start going up because he's on there, because he has now impacted the gaming world. He's brought faith to culture. So right now, I'm pretty sure whoever's watching here or online, you have an idea. You have a thought. I guarantee it. Right now, I'm either seed, or I'm watering, or I'm putting sunlight or a confirmation on the idea that somebody has. Because when you take faith to culture, you take you to it. We're salt. We're salt. Imagine putting you or your ideas in any of these categories. 424 million people listen to podcasts, not just religion and spiritual, but everything. How much more you can utilize podcasting if we take it out of this one box that we placed it in. Because I remember speaking to a pastor about television ministry. Now, this is a way back. This maybe about 15 years ago. And he came to me, he says, you know what, Prentiss, I'm tired of fishing in the same pond. I'm on the Word Network, but I know who's there. I want to fish in some different ponds. This is different ponds. So, how can you take your idea and grow it? So, whatever idea that you do have, whatever idea that you're thinking about, I want you to find podcasts that center around it and listen to them. Because before you dive into podcasting, you have to understand how they work. My whole conversation today is to stir you up. Because we all have a story. We all have something to share. I recently went on TikTok and I told the world about my cancer story and how I found out I had cancer. I got so many responses because I was being uniquely me. And the reason why I did it was because I wanted to share my story to help somebody else. So, that's the Prentiss Thompson version. Go preach to all. Go preach to all. So, God did something else to me. I was heading to B&H to quit my job. And I opened my phone up on the train, and he said, I need you to write this down. Repurpose Network. What? Repurpose Network. What do you want me? I want you to repurpose content for your people. Okay. So that's what I did. And on top of that, I created a course for podcasting. So if you want a deeper dive into podcasting, click the QR code. Because this will take you through the why, the what, the how, what's needed, and how to release it. Because I didn't want to get into the technical aspects of it until you understand the why. The why is more important than knowing what mic to use. The why and the how and the entertainment value you have to present is more important than what recorder to use and what computer to use. Now, in this course, you get all of that. So you get all of that.
In a world searching for meaning and hope, there's a place where voices rise. Welcome to the Repurpose Podcast Network, your haven for podcasts that envelops the everyday lives of believers. Shows about relationships, news, sports, and so much more. With so much negative content defining the Black experience, controlling the narrative is on the forefront. We amplify, elevate, empower Black creators to share with the world their thoughts and ideas. Tune in and unlock a world of captivating content that entertains and uplifts. The Repurpose Network. One message, many voices. The movement launches September 12th, 2023.
Thank you. My goal is 100 shows on 1 billion devices, bringing 500 million souls to Christ with the $10 million revenue to impact the world. That's what I want to do. But it all started with me listening to the voice of the Lord to walk me down this. So, can we get into the podcast? Because I'm going to show you bringing faith to culture, what it looks like in person. So that's my information. If you want to click it, if you grab me later. But however, let's run the video for the mother's video.
But my mom loved to sing. My mother would never say that she was a singer. She told us she's not a singer, but it was because I heard my mother's voice. And when my mother would sing, it wasn't how she sang, it was the words she sang. What a friend we have in Jesus, all my sins and griefs to bear. You know, what a friend we have in Jesus, take it to the Lord in prayer. And those are the things that I remember.
No failure in God. Oh, don't you worry. Don't.
What makes me fearful during COVID-19 is the unknown. My children are big guys that can drive cars, and so I'm not with them all the time.
So much anxiety because there's so much unknown, and in more ways than I usually would, just let go of any and all control and surrender and to just trust the Lord.
Becoming a mom in general, I realize that I do have a lot of fears and this natural instinct to want to protect where viruses happen and where things happen.
To moms of seniors this year, that I feel ya. It's hard, and there's a certain music in our house right now that we'll be missing next year, literally and physically for our sake, because Jackson plays piano. But I think that we've been given such a blessing in return in this season where we get to spend precious time, and I'm so grateful for that.
Show me face, fill up this space. My world needs you right now. My world needs you right now. I
Amen. Yeah. So yeah, that I'm going to give you a little background with that. That always gets me. There's so many stories at that space and time. But that was Mother's Day 2020 at the start of the pandemic, and it was, to me, a technical marvel how we were able to pull it off. But a little background, that was, since it was the beginning of the pandemic and basically churches were closed, it was Mother's Day, and we wanted to connect with the world in a special way. But moms needed to be separated. We had all the rules in place, 6 feet. We shot the thing in 4 different locations, very, very small audio and video crew. And I probably spent, 40, 50 hours editing that thing. Limits in, they always say get creative outside of the box thinking. This was getting creative in a box with restrictions, trying to figure out how we can create something special in a space where everybody felt isolated. So this is kicking off the podcast portion of Prentiss's presentation. He's going to talk to them about what they were dealing with at that time as moms. Amy is not here. She was pregnant at the time. She has 2 babies now. So much she's learned during that time. But I'm going to talk about, after they talk about the emotional side and the storytelling as he leads the interview, I'm going to talk about the production side of it and how we pieced it all together.
So I watched this thing like so many times and impactful in different ways. And after hearing you guys' story with your children, how did it impact you? It's impacting you differently now because this is 2 years later, 3 years later almost. Yeah, almost 3 years later. So how did it impact you then?
I'm shy. She's going to go first.
It's been a minute since I've turned one of these on. I almost, when we first talked about doing this today, I had forgotten that entire, I remember that vaguely. It just feels like 20 years ago, which I think we all experienced looking back to the very beginning of the pandemic, and it just seems like a decade. But at the same time, it was just yesterday. So that senior that I had playing piano for the song, he was a senior in high school at the time. He's a senior in college now. So that just tells you, I'm like, well, that's technically maybe 4 years almost. But it was 3.5, and it was just a wild time in our history. We had so much great time. I think I referenced that on the video. We had a great, space to be able to just like be together all day, where he normally would have been at school. He would have been invested in all the senior activities, but there was none of that. All those got canceled, so we just had really good fellowship, and that was a gift. And also, the music I referenced that would be gone from our house was him leaving. And that always just petrified me as a mom for my firstborn to go away. And this is what they did. They got this, but on the very first take, you see me crying, and I never cry publicly. I hate it. So anyways, thanks again for that. But we just really experienced such a special time, but that's a real sweet thing to have captured, and I feel real honored to have been a part of that. And looking back, it got me too. So thank you, Chris. Yeah.
I agree. My son, I do have this on, by the way. Testing. Hello. Okay. So my son was also a senior in high school. And so, MUS, like every other school, was closing down to the public, and they had to go home. And we were together, and I'm crying already since he was in the 6th grade that he was going to be going to college. And so now he's also a senior in college. And even on yesterday, I'm thinking about how much I just probably care too much about just every little detail about his life and his health and all of that. And so thinking back at that time, how special it was that I got to start the podcast with my mom, and that she's 79 now, and that she was sitting in a car coming to the neighborhood Christian centers instead of coming in the building, so that she was isolated but still could be engaged with us. She's still doing that now. And then my son, growing up, and now his hair is way longer. Just a lot of things that have changed. But seeing how God has also matured him in the faith, because at that time he was not as face forward to the congregation, and now he is. and he's walking out his faith, and I'm learning to walk out, letting him be, letting him go and be a man. And so that's challenging, as a mom. And just the protective measures that we had to take for our children during COVID. Just thinking about how do we make sure they're successful in their education, in their pursuit of a career or whatever, in this unknown time where those formative years for that were still going to be then, because we couldn't wait till now to do that. And so all of that, just trying to play it by ear and trust God, was very important.
So my next question is, creatively, how were you guys able to determine who would sing what parts? Because
I'm our music
let's
director.
see if this mic works now. No? Okay, all right. We'll just keep handing it back. Hey, well. All right, so that's a process that starts in a creative design space. So it started with the Hope Creative Design staff. The music team had a lot to do with that, meaning the director of worship, the worship leader. So what he did was he thought about not just diversity as in a sense of race, but also in ages. I mean, you saw at the beginning, it was her with her mom, which is a completely different generation. And so we thought about as we try to represent the entire congregation, as diverse as it is, ages, ranges, stages of motherhood. Then we also thought about what song speaks to the world at this time. And so there were a bunch of different creative ideas that went out there. It wasn't just one person. It was a team effort. And then we started thinking about their history and connection with Hope and who they are as Christ followers. And we asked, and they were available. Effie has a whole story about how she just had surgery. So we were like, is she going to be available? So it's a bunch of that.
Yeah, we actually probably had similar stories. I had a precancerous diagnosis probably 4 months prior to them saying when I would have the surgery. And during that video, that's also a little tear. I was like, I'm here. And then it was COVID, had the surgery, and I remember I'm like, I got to look back like that again because I was walking every day. I had a little more tone going on. So that was good for me during COVID. So just thinking about all of what I had to, go through just as an individual with my own health, and I couldn't be compromised by being with certain people, because of my health. So it was all of those memories, and all the coordination. Because they came to our office. We never closed to the community for our services, but they came to our building. Then they came to church, and then they were at the studio. It's like so many moving parts. And my mom actually came in the building for that, and she wouldn't have done that, but we had to make sure everybody was, gone. So it was a lot of maneuvering that Chris and his team did, and it was well done.
So I have a technical question for you. Microphone selection. Because that was very key in the tonality of each individual voice. And me being an engineer, I know what I was looking at. But how did you guys purposely make those choices, or this is the mic we have?
Right. No, I'm sure that was very strategic from the audio engineering team. I wasn't as involved in that part of it. But what I did find out was, yes, we captured audio live, and then they fed, some of them had ears so they could hear what the other person is saying, and we just played that back in real time and click tracks and all that stuff. You sing this alto, you sing soprano, and so even when the first person didn't hear anything, they knew they were supposed to sing a certain thing. And so the way it was captured was in post sweetened. I mean, you talk about mastering audio as an engineer. You hear at the very beginning, the whole song shifted when that bass hit. A lot of that did not happen live. And as an audio engineer, knowing how to sweeten something and knowing when a moment is special and how do I accentuate this, how do I drag, someone sang the right note, but how do I drag it so it merges well with the next singer, and then coming in and out so it seemed like they were all together live. It was a beautiful audio engineering marvel from my perspective. Now, video, I can tell you more about that, But as far as my specific microphones, in the show notes, I'll get those answers from Tyler and DJ and Daniel. Those were the ones who were on site to make sure we captured things.
So let me ask you another singer question. How many takes were you guys doing?
One time, baby. That's all.
Whoa,
Probably with
watch
this
out
one.
now.
I do believe it with this one. She's a one and done. She's a solid pro. I don't even remember. I would say probably a couple times through. I think I asked for one more. Can we do that one more time? Some challenges were just when you're in the room with people, you can hear their intonation and their, even how long they're holding out a phrase. And we didn't have any of that. So really, kudos to the post-production because they definitely pulled it all together. But I think the benefit is that we've been singing together for, 20 years, plus years. And so, a blend, we kind of got used, you stay in the pocket when you're used to singing almost every weekend at the time with the same people. You know where you fit in that.
Right.
So that wasn't, just foreign to us. We already had established a blend, so that was pretty neat.
I want to say I was the first one recorded.
I think so.
So I actually
right.
sang the what they all sang at the beginning. I sang the melody to establish it. Then I sang to myself to ad-lib because that's what they think I'm supposed to do all the time. So anyway, so I'm that girl. And then I was like, okay, I get to sing that part at the end. So I felt kind of good about that. But it took us all a couple times because we had to sync. We had to get a little cadence. We had to, our voice types, especially mine, had to be leveled. So even if I don't think audio can fix my timbre or my being so loud or so soft. So we all had to make sure we were singing in a reasonable tone that we consistently could repeat that. So, or that could be replicated. So anyway, that was fun to do, but we had to be very intentional because time was of the matter too. Because I'm sure people were paid to do this, and so you can't be like, "Can I do it 5 more times? Let me do it 12 more times." They had to get to the next thing.
Right.
So it was important.
All right, so back to technical. Visually, how did you achieve this amazing, powerful presentation?
Well, they did speak to a little bit of it, that we did record them 3, 4, and 5 times sometimes. Because it was primarily the same 1 or 2 director of photography, it's easy to remember what you shot. And so I remember I ran Jib on the time that Jill was in there. So I knew when I had a big sweeping shot, so I didn't focus so much on that song, that part of the song. I tried to create a special moment in every space I was shooting. So that way I knew, hey, I've got this that I know I'm going to use here. Let me find for this mom another section. There's a moment where show me your face. I can't sing. Watch out.
Okay.
But,
You better go ahead.
I
You better sing.
I saw that.
I heard
I
that.
saw that baby turn his face. I said, man, if that is not it.
I saw that too.
And
I
so,
did too.
so in the space while you're shooting it, you know when magic happens, and you put that in your mental Rolodex. There have been hundreds of thousands of hours of interviews that I've shot here, videos that have been edited down to 2 minutes, but you're looking at 20 hours of footage, and I remember all that stuff. It's just crazy how that. And so so for me, being the shooter, it helps to kind of rethink and creatively think about how it can come together, even before you sit down and look at the timeline.
Yeah,
I know that's right, because I did not cry, but for a fraction of that time, I talked for an hour, I cried for 1 minute. He got the 1 minute right out of the gate, so that's right.
Yeah, editing when you shoot is, as a shooter, and I know, when you shoot and you know what you have, going in blind is someone handing you content, and you have to watch everything. Your 40 or 50 hour could turn into 80 hours easily. Easily.
Yeah.
To the heart of the matter.
Well, I really loved it, and I hope you guys really take something from it, understanding that a song in a time and space, along with the intentionality of being multi-generational and a timeless song that still speaks to these ladies then and now, can speak to a generation 20 years from now. and how powerful that is to put that in a podcast format that can minister to people in the future.
That's it. That's it.
So I want to thank everyone. First of all, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Hope I did all right.
I'm going to start a podcast now.
Did I do okay?
No, I'm not.
Did I do all right? Well, thank you.